about America. This is one of the best tracks in the United States, if not the best track. Okay, I'm going to give you a little pointers of how I do it, how I've been doing it. This is where I got my first professional race win ever back in the early 90s. But track hasn't changed much. They've repaved it. But here's how we're going to do it, right? First, when you look down here, you're coming down this beautiful old straightaway after the up. And now you're coming to turn one, and turn one's going to come in. It's either one gear down or two gears down, depending on your car. This brake zone is uber important, right? That's very German. And we are, you look left, you see these brake markers. I do not use these brake markers. This is what I use. This little road here tells me all I need to know, which is, okay, some cars you need to brake right here. Some cars you got to brake 3 car lengths after, but it's all right in this zone. I leave myself 2 feet, right? Once you know how good your car is, you know how straight your car is going to brake. I leave myself a tiny bit of space here. I slam on these brakes. We have ABS, so I'm going to be burying the ABS down there. We're heading to turn 1. You see turn 1 sort of cambers and drops away. I'm going to go 2 gears down. I am not going to let off on these brakes until I've got that nose turning into turn 1. We're going to get to turn 1 in a minute. But the trick is you have to get your front wheels right to that apex marker. And you have to basically touch that inner apex, and that's where you're going to pick up the throttle. But carry that brake. A lot of people let off the brake too early, and then they wind up shoving wide, and they miss turn 1 altogether, and it's a problem. So remember, this is what you're going to use. You're going to key on it. Here's this white line, hard brakes, ABS, trail it in right to the inner apex marker, and then we're going to pick the throttle up when we get there. Been hanging on that brake pedal since that little cutout that we've talked about all the way back there. It's taken everything you have to stop from 165, 170 miles an hour, and now here we are at turn 1. You haven't let off yet because you're going to keep braking as you even trail in, and somewhere between this blue dot, which is the turn-in dot, if you have really good eyes, you'll see it when you come there, and then as we trail in there. Now the trick is as you're braking and you're trailing and you start to see the inner yellow and reds, the moment you know I am on a trajectory that the front end is gonna make it, you pick up the throttle, whatever you can get, open up that differential a little bit so the car will start to rotate, touch that right front wheel on that curb, and pick up as much throttle as you can immediately. When you're at that curve, pick up your eyes, because there's a lot of room to drive for your exit, right? So you're in here, you're turning, you're braking a quarter of the way in here. Now you're off the brake pedal, touch that throttle, maintenance, open that diff a little bit, step on the gas, immediately do some calculations. Will my front end get to that inner apex? If no, then you got a tiny bit of breathe. If yes, more throttle, more throttle, more throttle. Then all the way in, more than you think you need, open those hands up, start driving it out towards track out. Track out is over these gray curbs. They're rough, they're a little bit gritty, but you got to use it up, and you got to just bounce on it, get out of it, get back onto the track, and heading down to turn 3. That's how we're going to do turn 1. Okay, so now we've exited turn 1. So if you look back there, you can see turn 1. Ship it all the way out there. That's up here series, but you look, the rubber marks have come over here. We've gone over and beyond these curbs, and just kind of hang on. It'll get smoother over here. Put your outside wheel center out here. You have lots of grip, and you will ride this all the way to the green grass on the exit of turn 1. Just get on the track before the green grass, otherwise you're going to have a big pothole there. That's how you do turn 1, and it's all about momentum, carrying the speed, but do not, you want to take your brakes in as hard as you can. Don't run wide. If you run wide, you can't go to throttle. So make sure you run as deep as you can, but you can always get to that inner apex. You touch that curb, put your foot hard to the floor, and leave using all the pavement you can, and then you've got a perfect turn 1. So you've come out of turn 1 with all you've got. You need to come down to the second or the first most important turn on this track, which is turn 3. You gotta have these brake markers. You gotta know which one is good for your car. You wanna brake as late as you can, that's obvious, but you cannot go in here so hard that you lose the front end and you can't carve this turn. It's so important to come in as late as you can, but what's more important is to leave with the best exit you can. So what I tend to do is I brake late, I carve on that nose, I get it all the way down to that inner apex. I almost get the car straighter to leave, because then I can leave powering down and not laterally be spinning the wheels on the traction control. You gotta leave straight, you gotta leave precise. And so here's how we're gonna do it. You get down here, go on the brakes hard, turn in, just touch this curb, but touch it towards the end of the curb. We're gonna show it to you here in a second. Line this thing straight up, pick up throttle halfway through. There's a lot of traction on the exit of turn 3 that people don't realize. Put your foot to the floor, hand speed up, drive it off, and try not to run the big pothole on the way out. If you do, a trick that I use, we have traction control. If you hit that big pothole on the way out, it will kick the traction control in and ruin the exit. I have a TC off button. I see where I'm coming on the way out. If I'm gonna run a little bit wide and I know I'm gonna bounce the car once or twice, I turn it off on the way out and just let the motor zing up and go so I don't ruin my exit speed. Let's go check out this. Very straight on exit. Here we are. Coming through here, you pick up the throttle. You can see where those two gentlemen are. That's almost track out exit over there. You are now floored. Here you are, floored. And you're living right on that lateral load with your traction control kind of kicking in, not too much. Tons of traction, tons of grip right here, so you don't really have to ever worry about sliding your car. And you're gonna track out, you're gonna jump over the curbing that you see there, 2 wheels over. Where those guys are, you need to be getting back on because there's a pothole there. So run it out over those curbs, 2 wheels out, back on. And if you can even sniff a draft from your competitor, you get in there and you find them. I don't care if you're 50 cars back, you will pick up some draft. It's so important because it's so fast. And this is the second most important straightaway in the track. So where we talked about turn 1 and turn 3, which is brake, but don't outbrake yourself because the exits are more important. Now we're at turn 5, where braking is king. This is where a lot of the passes are going to be done. This is where braking late actually will make up lap time. You can make up 2-3 tenths. If I can get, here's a 300 marker, your brake zone generally will be between this 300 marker and that 200 marker. You push it down to that 200 marker, just between here and there, I bet you're talking 3 tenths of a second of lap time. So the trick is to shove it down here as hard as you can. I call it collecting the wreck, right? You brake as hard as you can, you brake as deep as you can, and you keep pushing this limit. If you don't hit the brakes and then let up for the corner, what you want to do is hit the brakes as hard as you can. If you stop short, the amount that you stop short, if you stop short 10 car lengths, then you move in 10 car lengths. Same hard pressure on the limit of braking until you just overshoot the corner. So don't let up on the brake. That's a habit people get into. They find a comfortable zone, they brake the 300, they immediately, your brain does a calculation, goes, oh, I'm braking early, I'm too early, and you let off the brake, and you just sort of gently coast in. That's not how you find speed. How you find speed is push yourself down here, push, push, push until you cannot make that corner, and then back it up 1 foot. 1 foot at a time until you can just find that inner apex. So get down to that 200 marker, 215 marker. If you have ABS, you bury the pedal in hard, you put your eyes right to that inner apex. We'll see it down there at the bottom, and you stay right. You almost run these curves on the right with your right tires. Just stay just off them because it will hurt your braking a little bit, and stay from that very right side. And then we're gonna find that inner apex. But push this brake zone as hard as you can. All right, so now we have broke as absolutely hard as we can down here. On the edge, if you have a non-ABS car, you're on the edge of locking wheels. If you have an ABS car, you've been ABSing all the way down the hill. Now that we've made it down here, you will glide your way all the way till your right wheels are basically touching this. If it doesn't upset you, it just buys you space, so get over here. But if it does upset you, just put a wheel on it. Basically, here's your turn-in point. Looking for that blue little dot, okay? And then we're gonna go take a look where you came from. It's a downhill braking zone. So you've turned in at that break point. And if you broke too late, you're going to miss the apex here. But you want to make it so the car just barely on the edge of making it get our nose down here. And we're going to glide the front end. You can for sure go over the yellow and the red. Some cars can go over this and some can't. If you look, they're deep trenches, but use up as much of this as you can so you can buy as much space as you can around here. Here's your exit point, blue dots again. You're gonna start tracking out these blue dots. And now you're tracking out. Try it, follow me here. Now you're tracking out. Putting as much power down as you can. You're trying to get the car straightened up because we got to go up here. If you run a big lateral load on your car won't take off because it's trying to laterally make traction as well as forward acceleration. So get this thing pointed straight, start heading up. What kind of car do you have? That's what's going to determine your track out. Do you have a car that goes over bumps well? You can use more. If you have a car that doesn't like to go over big bumps, then you can't use more. Take a look here. It starts at nothing. Then it gets to a little bit bigger, big. So by the time you're tracked out over here, your car is bouncing up and down, boom, boom, boom. So it doesn't look like it from the eye here. Use as much of this as you can where you don't impede the traction. So here we are. Now you've tracked out. You got your left wheels here, most likely your right wheels here somewhere, and you're heading at turn 6, which is an interesting turn. It's not easy. Climb this big hill from turn 5 to turn 6, and you'll be on this side of the track, the right side. A big thing what people do is they get up here and they go, oh, here's a left-hand turn, and you go up over rise, and it almost goes downhill, and people tend to smash the brakes. And when they do that, the car gets light in the rear. The trick here is over that bump, a light brake pedal, light. Then you guide the nose. A lot of people won't have a very sharp front here. Here's your turn-in point, blue dots. So you start in early, you'll wind right over these curves, light brake coming over the hill, pick a gear. You know, some people go down too far, second gear, and now you're overwound up. We do it in third. We come through here right away, pick up your eyes, start powering down. You see the natural line, people going dark light, people going out. Now the trick is, get over these curves, and if you have a new tire, you're gonna make a ton of grip. Even if you get the curves on the outside. Had the tires wear out, you use grip. Once you get out here, you cut it and we'll squirrel. Or see what squirrely looks like, let's look at the rubber marks down. It's from people, and they get out here and they lose one, and then into the inside wall, and that's never fun, all right? And now we've tracked out. Here we are out here, and you're putting the power down. Remember we talked about these curves? These aren't so bad. These are almost the same all the way across. So if you can use a little, you can use a lot. So we're all the way out here, track it out. And now, as soon as your car's ready to go the other way, we're gonna pull the steering wheel, and we're gonna start heading over to turn 7. This being my least favorite turn on the track, 7 being my favorite turn on the track. 7 is awesome. You get it right, you think it was amazing. You feel the downforce of the car, the speed, everything's happening. It's all happening really good set. We're coming out of 6, and you can naturally see how you need to cut the car back over to 7. So you pull that wheel, and you get it lined up all the way over here. Now, what people do is, you can see, we need to make it over there, and it looks like we want to turn way down here, which we do. The blue dot is all the way at the end. This is the theoretical perfect line. Well, very rarely do I drive the theoretical perfect car. So I'm always turning here, somewhere here. If I turn at that blue dot, I won't make it to where I want to get, which is the yellow and red curve. Forget the yellow and red curve. We're going to jump a silver curve. Now, this is all about car setup, right? So you've pulled this wheel. You've stayed on that throttle. You've barely breathed here. Now you're cracked up. You're trying to get back to full power. It's a downhill corner. This is fun, right? Here we are. We're turning in. Theoretical blue dot. Didn't happen. I had to turn in earlier. Otherwise, I was over here somewhere. And now here I am. I'm lighting up. I'm coming from out here somewhere. See that gray curb? Can your car deal with it, right? We have something called blow-off on our shocks. We tune our blow-offs for things just like this, that I can plow straight over that, and the car doesn't go up, the wheel goes up. So when it senses that I just crashed into essentially a curb that you would run into at a supermarket, it just lets the wheel go away instead of the whole car going up. Here we are. I jumped this there. I mean, I'm talking. I'm somewhere over here. Oh! Here I am. And I took the wheel dust wheels. Now that wheel's just barely gliding on here, tracking out here, and down. Yep. And now we'll track it out. Now your wheels start coming on the ground, tracking out. Here's the trick here. 2 tricks. Keep your foot in it until you can't. And then when you can't, drive straight. These are my 2 words of advice to you, right? You're right away, because it's a downhill corner, you're going to start losing that front end grip. So I'm going to calculate it. Am I going to run off the track? Nope, still good. Still good. Foot to the floor, foot to the floor, foot to the floor. We're going to go all the way down here now. And the trick is here, do nothing. Do not try to pull the car back over there. You will smash. There's a reason those tire barriers are over there. See all those tire barriers? That's because somebody who tried to pull the wheel to get back on. Okay, so naturally, if you look at this stuff, people come out here, right? Just, they have to get wheel straight, gently slow down, gently pull that down. Not do what they did, pull the steering wheel across. And that's my word of advice there. But big curb strike, up, over, fast as you can using all these curbs. Calculations really fast in your head. Am I going to make it? If you are, keep your foot in it. Head down to turn 8. Then we go to turn 8. All right, here we are, turn 8. This is similar to 5, but it will sucker you into the brake zone more for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it's all about braking really late, as late as you can. I can never make it to the 200. I'm somewhere what I call the 225 to 230, 240. Then we have brake it late in here. It's got a slightly odd apex, but it's got a track out that is exactly the same as turn 5, where those curbs start shallow, then they get deeper and deeper. So you take as much curbing on the track out as you can that you could possibly do, and your car doesn't start to go like essentially. Once it starts making that, and I feel, and my car slides, I see the traction control lights light up, and I know I'm not going forward anymore. It's just trying to keep me from spinning. So you go as far over as you can until my traction control lights are saying, hey, it's optimal, which is still, it's like a green light, an orange light. You brake down here, okay? Don't over brake yourself, which is what kind of can happen. Understand, there's never, very rarely do you do a perfect lap, right? So if you do outbrake yourself, you just make for a later apex and a better exit. Never just like give up on a corner because you made a mistake. We're always modifying our corners based on the mess up we did during that corner. It's very rare we get them perfect. So ultimately, if you got it perfect, you'd brake perfect here, you'd shoot down here, and this could be about right at the blue dot, right? So now we're all the way in here. I got 2 wheel brake hopping here. I'm right here. Now I'm pick up the plotting. Off I go. You pick up with everything you've got. If you go too early, or if you came a little bit too hot into the corner, you're gonna wind up going a little bit wider. The trick is to get a great run out of here to the famous carousel. You gotta stay on this black stuff. The moment you start hopping out over this, you start losing traction. It gets really significant out here. Just not doable. So you'll run. I run somewhere right about here, about 1 foot into this stuff, and then out we go, full power. Great traction here. Use a lot of this black stuff here. This is great power down material. Once they repaved it, it was awesome. Then you head to one of the most known corners in America, Carousel. So you come out of turn 8, and you come from that side of the track, which is extreme right. Now you're gonna get all the way to the extreme left, almost touching that line, entering the carousel. That's just to try to get a straighter line through here. You gotta see the black line. You gotta you rip it, force winch here. And what I do is I start gliding my way down. I find the most grip on the inside. So by the time we get to the halfway point, I'm actually hugging that white line. And that's where I find all the grip. And I will stay flat all the way to almost the center of the corner, in which case I'll start to get an understeer. Then I have to breathe. And then I'll almost diamond it a tiny bit. You'll drift out a tiny bit, breathe, turn. You'll get the nose to guide itself back in. And then you start looking for the way down the hill there, the exit apex. Now you're on a maintenance from the center. You're on a maintenance throttle, just holding that front end. You're front end dependent, like staying down that white line. And you've got your eye down, looking for that inner apex on the track out. And the moment you see you can make it, put that foot to the floor, turn. Sometimes you have to put more steering wheel in it and just grind that front end. It's not good for it. Grind that front end, track in, track out. Watch out that you don't jump off the exit curbs and leave the carousel with all you got. We'll get there in a second. Okay, so we're in the middle of the carousel. Now it's about maintenance, right? If I give it too much throttle, my front end's gonna go that way. If I give it too little throttle, I'm just not going as fast as I can. I'm actually gonna be slightly scrubbing the fronts. My engineers are not gonna like that, but you're gonna go until you give it, you know, at the point where you're steering and you go, okay, that's good. I'm pushing now, it's called understeer. I'm giving more wheel and the car's not reacting. I'll actually steer maybe a tiny bit into that. There's no point going much more. That's your speed limitation, right? So it's all you're gonna do when you come through. Maintenance all the way down, and it's going downhill, and pretty soon we're gonna pick up our eyes to find that cut out apex. If you could just see shining right there at the bottom, that'll be the next. All right, as we get towards the exit of the corner, I'm actually gonna start widening my arc just a hair to get off this white line so I can set up with the straighter exit. So now I've moved away just a few feet in anticipation of cutting towards that apex, right? And right about now, my eyes are squarely on that inner apex down there. And I'm going, if I just floor the car now, will I make it, right? This is my trick. So I will feed in as much throttle as I can now. Object about this is get your car set up so it will carve this corner and get out of here. So about now, I'm almost flat. I got my foot almost flat, right? So certain cars have an understeer, nothing you can do. A few cars that I've had are amazing through here, go through dead neutral. And I will set the traction control up so it just limits my slip angle, and I just mat it. It locks on a certain slip angle and will drive itself out perfectly every time on the computer. Famous kink. There's almost no turn on any circuit that we go to that has destroyed more cars than this corner. It's fun when you get it right. It's amazing. Let's say that the repave made every single corner on this track better. For me, it made the kink worse, right? So this is more difficult. Go for it. You've now come out of the carousel screaming, and you're excited about how fast you came out of there. And then when you get here, you're always like apprehensive about how fast you're going into here. So there's a couple of techniques. I see a lot of different ones. The trick is no matter what, from just past entry to exit, you got to be flat. So whatever that takes, that's what you want to do. Whether it is a slight lift here, if you have to, or a tap of the brake. If you're a left foot braker, you can do this. If you're a right foot braker, it doesn't work because you don't have the proper feel. But I see people lift, touch the brake with 8 bar, 10 bar brake pressure, just to drop the nose, just to drop the speed 3-4K, and then in they go. That gets them to the apex. Also, another neat trick is not in the wet. Don't do it because we've seen people crash here. You can run on these to buy you. Look at this. This is almost 2 feet if you can do it. I don't quite have the guts. I got the guts to make it about here because now you're doing, 5th gear. So you're doing 150 miles an hour, and you're going to run over bumps, and you're going to ask this front end to securely turn. You have to be dead precise with your hands on the turn in. You have to have your eyes open to that inner apex. Look at how this thing reacts, right? So you've been screaming here, and now you come out here, and now you started turning. And now we're turning in with that little sliver of pavement over there. And that is the trick. That will determine your entire exit and your existence on how smashed up you're going to do on your car, right? So if you came through here and you were wise, you could already go in the dirt. You could run wide. I've seen everybody hit stuff over there. If you get it wrong on the inside, a car will spin only if you go wheel. So here we are. Now we're tracking in. I've probably, in this BMW, I've done a slight lift, and about now, I'm back to flat. So flat meaning full throttle, turn in. I'm going to run over these curves, which is going to upset the car. I'm doing 150 miles an hour. And I'm going to run over these curves. Pull on the accelerator, and they did, yeah. And this is just going to buy me the distance I need to make it on the track outside. If you've raced here enough in Road America, you've had a situation here that's made you gun shy, right? Everybody I know has gone through here and had their moments. And now here we are. And you're just coming through here, and you're just about to flip off it. You're turning, not steering it. You're going full speed. Now you said, please, BMW aerodynamicist, I pray you did your job. I am now pulling on who knows what. Whatever he designed in that wind tunnel, that's all it's holding me to this ground right here, right? So you were screaming through here. My eyes are up on that heavy curve over there. Off we go. And so you have like bonus rough, right? You have the red and white curve here, and you definitely have the gray curve after it. We use it all. We use every bit of it. They're doing something funny. But here we are tracking out. Somewhere over here. We're getting onto that red and white. And if I got it a little bit wrong, I'm on the gray. We're past my tire. But I need it to be flat out somewhere before that curbing, just pulling with all that, what my 6-cylinder, 3-liter twin turbocharged engine can do. It needs to be doing everything right there. Actually, boom, boom, boom. Towards the end of the curbing down there, pull the car back on the track. You know you did this good if you've watched your shift lights and you have a piece of the wall that you looked at. I pull a gear and I go, okay, that's where I'm at. And all of a sudden you come screaming out of here and you pull that gear 100 feet earlier, you know you did it well. That's what you're looking for. Find somewhere right at the end there, the wall turns right. I know exactly where I pull the 6th gear. There's the kick. Super fast kink, and you're heading to that one you had to pull up your pants because that was scary. This is a beautiful little corner. It's called Canada Corner. It's fun, it's nice, interesting. You just passed it, but you brake at about the 300. That's about as late as you can brake. This is the 5th seriously hard brake zone. Elkhart Lake's pretty hard on brakes. You'll find out. Now you're standing on it. You're standing on the brakes so long that you're down on the nose. You're starting to coax this car in. In we go to this apex. And if you got it a little bit too deep, you're going to come from over here. If you got it ideal, you're going to be right about here. And you're going to see those white curves. You're going to come in right about there. You want to get a very straight shot on the exit, right? You're going to see that blue dot again. That blue dot's a very good indicator of where you want to be at the apex. They cracked it. Well, they got this thing slowed down. Some people do it in 2nd gear and ask a lot of the traction. I do it a gear up, and I ask a lot of the torque. I don't need to just blow the wheels off and be fighting on the traction control. I let it roll the speed through here. Here's where I'm at. I'm now tracking out. You're already on the edge of traction, even third here, right? And I'm good to go with my traction here. But the car wants to be able to see it. As I fight for traction, the car wants to come over and over next, right? This, again, like 5, like 8. How good is your car over these curves? The further we go, the bigger the wedges get, the harder the traction is. You're compromised on traction at that point. I can't use it. I'm here. Somewhere back here. I flip my wheels on it. I want to be very straight. I'm going up, up, up. I'm actually hanging out here longer. The more worn out, the better your tires are, you get right back on the track. As your tires are worse, you're fighting, and you almost come in at the very top. And there's a hole up there, so you'll hit it. It's not great. second favorite turn on this track is turn 13. Come out of Canada Corner, you rift up this hill, you get yourself parallel to the red and white curve, right? Everybody wonders, where is the turning point? It's very close to the end. Here it is, blue dot. It's a third yellow paint from the end here. 1, 2, 3. Pick a red, pick a yellow, I don't care. This is where you're going to turn in. You're going to turn in. The object is to get across enough downforce to try to go flat through here. But never happens. There's a lift somewhere in this turn. But it's beautiful. You're climbing the hill. You're turning, right? If you have a car that has a very sharp front end, you miss the curves. If you have a car that has an understeer, you tap the curves. Depending on how severe your understeer is and how much curve I run there. And I do it strictly to upset the rear. So I rotate the car. Well, you're rotating the car in full gear. So, right? So consequences are high. Hand speed needs to be right there. You need to be very precise on your regular curve. This curving is important. You're going to use it all, right? Here we go. Tracking out, do that. When you release the corner, you let it go out. They're out here for more. If you have an understeer, you're over here. Remember the trick we did on the curb? We use some curb to try to stay from going off track. If you have a good front end, we'll just be on it. This is fine. Doesn't hurt, doesn't upset the car that bad. So we're pretty straight. But it can drive off here. It gets tricky. You gotta watch out, because by the time you touch this pothole here, you'll touch the bigger one where that bicycle is over there by the time you come on. So that's where the wreck happened. All right, so we've left turn 13 and we're heading to 14. 14 is probably the most important corner on the track because it sets you up for a long straightaway, big passing zones, big drafting into turn 1. Again, you come very straight into 14, you brake as late as you can, which we talked about, but not at the expense, like turn 3, not at the expense of the exit. The exit is key, the entrance is secondary. Here's your turning point. Right? These blue dots, who even knew they existed? Nobody's there. And up the hill. So that was turning in. What's the name of these people? Gently gliding in the inner apex. Couple of techniques here, right? Depending on your car, how much of this curve can you run? I know people that put their wheel in the grass, which drives me crazy because I can't do it. But I definitely will put my wheel right on the edge of it. Get right to about here. You see all the rubber marks getting on it right down here? This is where you're going to hug it. You're going to hug it for the next 60 feet right here, right? This is where you're preparing for that exit. You're making sure, I don't want to be loose here. I don't want to have one extra bobble that keeps me from blowing the throttle. This is all the recovery. This is the important part right here. This is setting up for that exit, right? So you're here, you're lined up, you put your foot on that throttle. One big commitment. In, get it right, right? And I'm heading out. You know, I've committed. Got a little understeer here. I'm gonna hang on to it. Wherever it goes, I'm going with it. Also, if there's somebody ahead of me, I'm already looking for their draft straight away, right? And like we did in turn 3, my eyes are looking, how much curb am I going to use on the exit, okay? My traction control could get in the way. But here we are. Track that. See how this is an indicator that people have an understeer through here a lot of time? Track outs, very real. These people were in trouble. They drove off the track, right? This is kind of where you want every right? Yeah. Out. You've curved it totally fine. The car can deal with it. But if you get too much and your car bounces, this is again, we're already figured out, is my traction control going to kick on? If so, I turn it off completely because I'm straightened up enough. This is all this is all like bouncing wheel intervention. EC off, lights are lit up, tell me it's off. I bounce my way back onto the turn. Now if I go, take a look at that uphill. This is a dyno pull all the way up to turn 1. The biggest horsepower cars usually do pretty well knock on it. You have one more thing to show you, but take a look. There's the bridge. Past that halfway down is the start finish line. And that was lap route World America. little side note. We're not on the racetrack anymore. We're heading into pit lane, right? You only have so many times to practice this. That is getting to that line as fast as you can, slowing down to 50 kilometers an hour, and not being illegal, right? You test this every single time you come in. Whew, rip around. So the line is here. Pick a line here. You see them, -3, -2, -1, and you get in semi ABS. If you went too deep, I don't care about the penalty in practice. It's the bad thing in the race. So you get it perfect. You maximize it here. You maximize it on pit out. So practice all of it every lap, and you're going to be great.